Hello and welcome, I'm Arumba. Thank you for joining me. Let's go over the patch notes. So patch 1.12 is going to be live tomorrow. We finally have the full and up-to-date patch notes, and let's go look at them. So I did consolidate this slightly, but there's just so much in it that's so important that most of it's actually still in here. You can find the full patch notes on the forums right now if you'd like. It's like 750 lines long, so have fun. But, alright, so let's talk about it. Here are the expansion features. These are features that you must buy the Common Sense DLC to be able to use in-game. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the way Paradox has pretty much, in the last couple of years, always worked when it comes to DLC, is that if you own the DLC and you host a multiplayer game, then the players that join it can also use the DLC. So just keep that in mind. If you're playing with friends, you can try it out, you can do that kind of thing, but I've already logged like 20 hours in this patch, and I think it's definitely well worth it. So, alright, so first and foremost, Theocracies now have heirs that are chosen by event, with each choice having a different effect, and unlocking certain events that can happen once their heir becomes monarch. So, it's pretty cool because you can kind of focus your country based on what your current problem is. If you need prestige, if you need devotion, which we're about to talk about, if you need relations with a nearby country, like there's just lots of choices there. Also, you get to cycle your leader quite often because they usually come at age like 40 to 50 instead of being a very young monarch. So it's an interesting system. Theocracies now have devotion, which is similar to legitimacy in Republican tradition. Devotion goes up from high stability and pious acts, and goes down from low stability and low religious unity. Devotion affects your papal influence, church power, prestige, and tax income. This is a pretty cool mechanic for them, just something to diversify them a bit from regular other gameplay. Constitutional monarchy, constitutional republic, and English monarchy now have parliament. Countries with parliaments have to grant a certain number of their provinces seats in parliament, which then allows them to vote on issues. The country with parliament can choose between a few randomly picked ideas and then have a number of years to secure enough votes for the issue to go through. Votes are secured either through events or bribing parliament seats. I've never actually seen events flip somebody yet, but that's just my experience. After 5 years of an issue being debated, there's a random chance that the vote will go through at the end of each month with the chance of winning depending on the number of seats that are backing it. If the vote goes through, the country gets the benefits. Otherwise, you lose 20 prestige. So it's pretty cool. It's actually kind of rare. Like 20 years feels like a long time, so you don't get a ton of these events. But it's good. I mean, I got to play around with it with my English campaign, and it's good. Protestantism now has church power. Church power accumulates over time and can be used to buy aspects, which are permanent modifiers added to that country's particular version of Protestantism. The country can only have 3 aspects, after which church power can be used to trade an existing aspect for a new one. Have not yet had a chance to play with this, but I did see it on one of the streams. It looks very simple, very cool. If you want to be a trade nation, you can be a trade nation. If you want to be a combat nation with high discipline, you can do that. Like it's you know, pick your own flavor of Protestant. Pretty cool. The diplomatic action remove electorate is now available to the Emperor to remove an elector at the expense of worsened relations with other electors and 10 imperial authority. This action is not available unless the HRE has an official religion. So you have to do the Protestant versus Catholic thing. You know, you can't just do it from the start of the game. You know, if you're playing as Austria, you can't say, "Hey, Bohemia, sorry, you're the only real competitor I have, and you can't be an elector anymore." Because, you know, they have a bonus to opinions usually with most of the other electors, that kind of thing. Implemented government ranks feature. Each government rank can now have up to 3 ranks, with higher ranks conferring better bonuses, and higher government ranks lowering cooldown on changing your national focus. This patch also will unlock the national focus feature if you don't have it from, I believe, El Dorado. So that's something worth knowing. Players with the common sense can dynamically change their government rank through the government screen in various events and decisions, while those are locked to rank or 1, depending on whether you are independent, unless you are playing historical empires such as the Byzantines or Ming. Buddhists now have karma. Karma decreases from aggressive expansion and increases from honoring alliances and releasing nations. Rulers with too high of karma will be detached from the world and suffer a penalty, while rulers with too low karma will lose trust in their mind and gain a penalty to discipline. Actually, my experience is that if you are too high in either direction, you get a penalty to both, but that's just me. Maybe I read it wrong. Oh, you know what it is? No, that is correct. That is correct. It's just that you lose the bonuses. You have 2 bonuses if you're in the middle, and you get a penalty on either side if you're on one side or the other. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is right. Of course it's right. The rulers with the balanced karma will get bonus to both discipline and diplomatic reputation. You can now return an owned province to another nation. It has a core on it for an opinion boost at the cost of 10 prestige. Doing so will remove your cores, it claims. This cannot be done while at war. So I suppose if somehow you accidentally get control of, say, the Big Blue Blob's land and you want to be friends with them and they really want that land back, you can just give it to them. And that way you don't have to fight them for it. You don't have to let them have a chance to rival you, that kind of thing. The Emperor can now grant free city status to nations in the HRE that only own one province. Free cities get a special Republican government, bonus to tax income. This is a flat bonus. It's a huge bonus too. It's like 6 or 7 or something of flat income per month. And will always be able to call in the Emperor when they are attacked, even in internal HRE wars. The Emperor gets a bonus to tax income, manpower, imperial authority for each free city in the HRE, but there can only be 7 in total. A free city that gains a second province or leaves the HRE will lose their free city status. Free cities cannot be electors. So you just kind of want to have them around because they develop the land up a ton and they give you imperial authority and they're cool. You can now pause westernization. While it is paused, no monarch points will be spent towards westernization progress and no westernization events will fire. But the country will still continue to experience that -5 unrest. Added subject interaction for all subject types. These are special actions and toggles that can be enacted on your subjects, such as forcing a colonial nation to declare war on another colony, placating a vassal to lower their liberty desire, or forcing a lesser union member or partner to adopt your culture. Subject interactions are accessed through the country subjects screen. So you actually have to go to your, it's the farthest most to the right tab, it's the subject screen. You can now increase the base tax, base production, and base manpower of your provinces at the cost of administrative, diplomatic, and military power, respectively. Cost of developing a province depends on the terrain, the climate, and how many times the province has previously been developed. Certain ideas and modifiers will also increase or decrease development costs. For those without the expansion, reduced development cost ideas will instead give other beneficial effects. So it's going to be like in previous versions of the game, if you don't have this expansion, the provinces will just have a certain number of stats at the beginning of the game, and they'll pretty much stay the same for the whole game. That's kind of how it's always worked. There's been a few random events to increase or decrease base tax and move base tax around, but you don't have to have the expansion. But this part's really fun, and so it's probably worth getting. If you have money to burn, you can now dismiss an advisor from the pool, allowing greater control of the advisors you can select. So you effectively pay the higher cost to make them go away. This just gives you another chance at randomly rolling an advisor that you want. There's no guarantee you're going to get what you want, so if you're looking for the discipline advisor or the Republican, or not Republican, sorry, the diplomatic reputation advisor, you might get him, but you might not. Numerous new events for Buddhists, Protestants, Theocracies, the Papal State, subject interaction, and Parliament, and National Focus is now available for all players with Common Sense expansion. Oh, apparently it was Res Publica, not Eldorado. These are the free features automatically with the patch. So pretty much everything from here forward is already in the game. So these are the things you get from the actual DLC. These are the things that are coming tomorrow no matter what. Added 25 new achievements, added Tengri and Zoroastrian religions, split Buddhism into the Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana religions. Major update to missions, where many missions were reworked and some pointless and impossible ones were removed. Most missions should now give some much more interesting rewards. The fort system has been completely reworked. Most provinces no longer have forts, and unified provinces will fall after a single month's siege. Forts are now expensive. It's not a single month siege, it's actually one siege tick. So if you take like offensive ideas and you have a bonus to siege speed, it might only take you 24 days to take a province. You know, the default siege tick rate is 30 days, and that's modified by your status effects. Forts are now expensive buildings. They cost about 200 ducats per level. And they create a zone of control in your adjacent provinces. It will block passage of hostile troops and automatically recapture provinces taken by the enemy. You can mothball forts to reduce their maintenance. Default maintenance is 1 gold per month. And if you mothball it, it's exactly half. For some strange reason, forts are not affected by inflation, so it's just a fixed number. Your capital always has an extra level of fort that costs no maintenance, but it does not cause a zone of control unless there's also a fort building there. The building system was also completely reworked. The number of buildings in the game were reduced and their cost was increased, but all buildings should now have a significant effect on the province. Monarch points have been removed from the cost of buildings, but the number of buildings you can build in each province is now restricted by the province's building slots based on its total development and the type of terrain. So certain types of terrain, like I think farmlands, just get like a bonus +2. Plains get like +1, Other places just have a penalty to the cost of raising development, like forest and mountains have like 25 and 50%, I think. Provinces, it's a percent-based increase, sorry. Provinces now measure their economic power in development instead of base tax. Development is a combination of base tax, base production, and base manpower. So the way that it used to work was, let's say you wanted to core a province and it was 5 base tax. Then the cost of coring was 20 administrative points per base tax. So it would be a 100 administrative point province to core. Now all 3 are factored in. So what you would have is, like, let's say you have 30 development. Maybe it's 10 administrative, 10 diplomatic, and 10 military. So 10 production, 10 manpower. Then each point of development is 10 administrative points to core. So that'd be a 300 administrative point province. So the math is actually quite simple, although it does seem like the cost for integrating has stayed at 10 diplomacy points per base tax, and the cost of coring has gone down from 20 to 10. So overall, it actually kind of feels like a nerf to vassal feeding, because it's less administrative points than it is. You can find more reductions to administrative point reductions than there are diplomatic point reductions. If that makes any sense. I think I'm making sense, right? Anyway, just try it out. You'll see what I mean. Looting has been reworked. Provinces now have a loot bar, very similar to what Crusader Kings 2 has. I'm very happy that they put this in. It's way more just intuitive and fun and better than that whole weird system where it's like, oh yeah, you just go into the provinces that aren't adjacent to military access, and it's just better than everything that they've done in the past. It goes down while hostile regiments to the owner are present in the province. Each regiment loots a certain amount per month, depending on their type. I've never understood why they do stuff like this. Like, people usually want to know. So why don't we just do this? Infantry equals 0.1 per month. Cavalry equals 0.3 per month. Artillery equals 0.05 per month. You can find this in defines, but it's like, yeah, that's what people want to know, right? That's what I wanted to know. Anyway, so that's what they do. This money's added directly to the looting country's treasury. The province will suffer penalties that get worse, and the more depleted the loot bar is, and once it's fully depleted, cannot be looted any further. Provinces that have been looted for the not been looted for the last 6 months will begin to recover their loot bar at a rate of 10% per month. So it takes 10 months to fully recover, and 10 months plus the 6 months that they can't have been looted. So 16 full months from the last time they were looted, they should be back up to full value. There is a penalty to the attacker for looting provinces. The actual total attrition you can suffer can go up by as much as 5% if you deplete all the loot. So you have to be careful with managing your supply limit if you are going to loot a province. I believe that looting also decreases supply. I can't recall off the top of my head. Major update to the peace system. The annex option was removed. No longer do you have to pay 100% war score for full annexation. Instead, to annex, you just now have to select all of the target's provinces. It is now possible to demand any province from the enemy war leader. Depending on occupied provinces, cost 10% extra. So if a province has like a 10% war score cost, then it'll cost 11%. If it has a 5% cost, it'll have a roughly, say, 5.5%, 6% cost. Capitals cost an additional 20%. I almost feel like that might be need to be updated, be higher. Like, hopefully no major spoilers, but in my English campaign I took Paris from France just to spit in their face, and it seemed pretty easy. It was like 23 war score to take their capital. Demanding provinces from others works as before. Revoking cores no longer costs you diplomatic power. That's kind of cool, because I never use that because I just don't like the idea of spending war score on something that also costs diplo points. So this might be fun to use now. You can now demand gold from a country that you are annexing, because you don't have to spend 100% war score. You can now use humiliate peace option even if you're also taking other things from your rival, but it does cost more. So this is amazing. I think it used to be 30 war score. Now it's 40 war score, but you can take, say, France's capital and humiliate them and take war reparations and just be like, you suck, Frenchie. And it's awesome. It's really cool. I like it a lot. So, like, I found that by using the humiliate CB, or not CB, but the humiliate peace deal, it's so much more fun and easy to get 50 power projection. Because you don't just have to go to war simply to humiliate. Numerous bug fixes at a time of troubles, disaster, the English Civil War disaster, French wars of religion disaster, the French Revolution, the Castilian Civil War, and 10 Spanish flavor events. Game balance. Okay, so we got to keep like charging through this because there's like 700 lines in this thing. Advisors are now more balanced in their strength. Basically, theologians got nerfed. It is now more expensive to build buildings in rough terrain and harsh climates. Moving your trade capital now costs 200 diplomatic power to match the cost in administrative for moving your actual capital. Natives no longer boost base tax and MP manpower when colonies finish, but instead provide a permanent reduction to development costs. Cores and claims. Creating cores and diplomatic annexing countries is now more expensive. Okay, we'll see. Administrative efficiency now also costs core creation, affects core creation and diplomatic annexation costs, but it only goes up to 50%. So, core creation, like a claim, yeah, it says right here, reduced effective having a claim on core creation costs from 25% down to 10%. So this got nerfed, making it less expensive to take provinces that you don't have claims on relative to before, but at the same time, you can get significantly higher reductions to core creation from administrative efficiency. So, I found that overextension is not a big deal. You get 1% overextension per development. So, taking like Paris, for example, was 30% overextension. Where Paris used to have been 15 base tax, it would have been 60% overextension. Now it's only 30. Of course, that was early in the game with low development. Culture. Overseas provinces no longer count towards cultural acceptance. You may now lose 10 prestige for selling a province, same as returning provinces and abandoning cores. So you actually lose prestige to sell land. Historical friends at war may now lose their historical friendship when they do battle. Autonomy now reduces the amount of gold a province produces. Fish no longer reduces unrest, but instead decreases culture conversion cost. That's assuming you have the trading in fish bonus, which is a trade thing, not just by having fish. Force limit calculations were changed to be based on development and number of type of subjects. Force limit calculations should now be much less opaque in the interface. Gold provinces no longer get increased production from merchant republics and trade companies. Gold production is now reduced by local autonomy. Never understood why it wasn't. Independent nations now get a basic tax income of 1 ducat per month. Independent nations now start with higher base force limits. I believe it's +6 instead of +3. Removed tax income bonus from capitals. Used to be that you got +2 base tax wherever your capital was. Kind of like how you got +1 for temples, you got +2 for your actual capital. But that's gone now because you've got your basic income. Even a huge country like France gets this basic tax income of 1 ducat per month. Alright, so remove tax income bonus from capitals. Base price of salt is now 3. Trade power bonus from having transferred merchants is now capped at 100%. So you can't have 30 merchants and have 300% increased trade power in your capital node. It'll just be 100% in your capital node only. Reduced inflation from treasury fleets by about 33%. Embargoing subjects of rivals no longer gives you a trade efficiency penalty. This is important. It doesn't tell you that you're allowed to embargo a country that is... It still warns you that you're going to get a penalty, but you don't. So if you, let's say for example, you start the game off as England, and you rival Burgundy, and Burgundy tells their vassals to rival you, or sorry, to embargo you. So you've got all of their little personal union subject members embargoing you. Well, like Holland has a ton of trade power in the English Channel, and you can embargo them back, which is really powerful because England has increased embargo strength. Gold mines with base production over 10 now have a chance yearly of depleting and losing half their production. Cost for missionaries now grow over time like advisors do. Exploration. Reduced frequency of exploration events from naval exploration. They did seem to happen quite often. The drunken captain, always. Step hordes lost their relation penalty and instead got better looting ability. What this is, by the way, again, just tell us what it is, Paradox. The better looting ability is that they have 50% increased loot strength. It says somewhere that they have like 50% faster looting, but that's not true. Looting happens on the tick, on the monthly tick, every month. 50% faster would make you think that, you know, they get to tick 20 every 20 days. That's not how it works. They have 50% increased strength, so 10 infantry will loot as if they were 15 infantry. Also, I saw something in the defines about army tradition. I'm not sure if it was working, though, when I tested it in my my Uzbek game, or Chagatai, I don't remember who I was playing, but it seems like you're supposed to maybe gain some more army tradition from looting as a horde, but I didn't really notice it. Inward perfection modifier is now gone. Effective Ming's factions are now much smaller. Grand Electorate now provides a +50 opinion modifier. Removed Imperial integrity bonus. The Emperor can now demand unlawful territory while at war, as long as they're not at war with the country they're demanding it from. Major, major change, the Emperor. So you can no longer game the system by just always staying at war. Buffed HRE reforms for member states. Italy will now leave the Empire around 1500 if the entirety of Northern Italy region isn't brought into the HRE by then. Player nations have the option to choose to remain, releasing HRE member states, HRE members converting, winning defensive wars, and HRE members being annexed no longer affect Imperial authority directly. Instead, Imperial authority is mostly a ticking value that grows when the Empire is peaceful and there are a number of member states, and shrinks when the Empire is religiously divided and under the control of non-HRE nations. So, basically they've removed a lot of the exploits that were in the game. Hopefully, because of a change like this, we might be able to go backward in time and maybe allow for provinces to always be transferable to the war leader, for example. I would love that if we could please go back to that. That was changed because of HRE exploits. Anyway. Grand Navy is now +50% naval force limits, up from +25. That is a maritime idea. France lost diplomatic relations bonus as a tradition, and instead gained an extra bit of diplomatic reputation. Added new modifiers to numerous ideas and policies, boosted Bavarian ideas, boosted naval ideas significantly. Burgundy now starts with 1 diplomatic relation instead of +5% infantry combat, cavalry combat ability. Quality got changed. Quality education now gives +1 army tradition instead of recovery rate. Naval drill now is 10% more overall naval morale instead of morale recovery. Why this is important is that naval morale recovery was stupid and horrible, and this actually matters. Having higher total morale means you do more morale damage, while also allowing you to fight for longer. Having higher recovery never really did anything. It just didn't affect combat. Quality. Escort ships now have 5% ship durability instead of naval morale. Economic idea group. Finisher was changed to -20% development cost. I'm actually almost there. I'm very excited to try it out. Quantity. Forced labor is now +25% garrison size instead of development cost. Yeah, quantity used to reduce the cost of building buildings. The monarch point cost down by 20%. So now it's higher, bigger garrisons. Military borders no longer +25% defensiveness, but 15% garrison growth and -10% fort maintenance. Ming now has -20% fort maintenance as a tradition instead of +10% provincial trade power. Lowered the power of barons is now -10% development cost for Milano. Tuscany now starts with -10% development cost. Swiss idea reduces the development cost by 10% instead of war exhaustion. Swiss Alpine defensiveness now reduces fort maintenance by 20% instead of increasing defensiveness. That's actually kind of a nerf, I think. Money is cheap, but defensiveness is valuable. Swiss tolerance now increases tolerance to heretics by +2 instead of increasing religious unity. Italian idea heir to the empire now gives +1 prestige instead of + imperial authority. Most ideas that used to give 25% air chance now give 50%. Vindian traditions now have -20% fort defense. Ottoman traditions now have +3 tolerance. -33% core creation cost was moved to the first Ottoman idea. So they still have this really, really strong core creation cost thing. With the nerf effectively to claim strength reduction, this is even more valuable than it used to be. Various ideas that gave more than 20% reduction to land and navy maintenance were brought down to more sane levels. Okay. Scotland now starts with +33% land force limit instead of +5% morale recovery speed. Again, major significant change versus a horrible, not very good idea. Standardized effects of horrible... I just said horrible instead of hostile. It is hostile. It's a horrible, hostile core creation. Their most are now 25 to 50 instead of like +100%. That's because of the core cost is tied to development and it's all higher. Alright, boosted Neapolitan and Aragonese ideas. We don't know how, it's a mystery. Terrain now affects nation designer, province point cost. Now saving custom gender names and names to influence future monarch conception. Now saving custom gender names. Okay, so if you use custom names, the nation designer will use those names perhaps in the future. Reduced effective power projection on legitimacy and republican tradition. You can now store up to 200 papal influence. Rather significant change. Slightly buff the NT reforms. Missionaries converting a province now give it zeal. Cool! That's new. So apparently missionary strength is valuable, but also I guess if you convert a province yourself, then I think we're about to see this. Religious zeal now blocks conversion completely. So if you spend time and effort converting a province, then a stupid missionary center can't just convert it right back on you. Province development now slows down the conversion speeds of centers of reformation. Centers of reformation can no longer target provinces with religious zeal. Yep, good, good. Revolts. I don't know how long religious zeal lasts, but reduced a few impacts of unrest reduction to balance out having great buildings for it. Liberalism disaster now only appears if you have no parliament. Revolutionary rebels now want to enact constitutional republics. Merge nationalists and patriot rebels into separatist rebels that will fight to belong to their target tag. So, anything in the game that referred to nationalism before now refers to separatism. So it's like minus 15 years of separatism, that kind of thing. Rebels that enforce their demands or have them accepted will now apply the recent uprising modifier to all provinces that support them. Separatists will now spawn even for accepted cultures if your country isn't a celestial empire without the mandate of heaven. Interesting. Randomly generated rulers of theocracies now start out as old as republican rulers on average. Subjects. Nations supporting independence now only increase liberty desire for vassals they are supporting and their allies. Marches now count less towards total power for vassals for the purpose of calculating liberty desire. Subjects will no longer allow themselves to be annexed if their liberty desire is too high. Again, this number should be listed right here. It's 50%. If they have more than 50% liberty desire, you cannot annex them. So you've got to bring it down. Keep in mind you have subject interaction now, so you can spend prestige to lower their liberty desire, that kind of thing. Subjects no longer get higher liberty desire while being annexed. Primitives can no longer create or become marches. Having a royal marriage with a subject now lowers their liberty desire slightly. Marches now reduce liberty desire by 15%, down from 25. Marches will no longer lose their march bonuses from growing too large. It used to be if they got up to 60 base tax, they would still be a march but have no bonuses as a march. So now they can continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but if you ever want to annex them, you will have to pay the penalty in, I think, stability and prestige, one of the two, to revoke their status, and they hate you forever for it, so plan accordingly. Temporary liberty desire now decays more slowly. Released vassals will now keep their faith. The released vassal screen will now show which religion they will end up with. Very useful to know. The first idea group now unlocks at Administrative Technology 5, and levels with buildings, and levels when buildings and other various effects unlocked were tweaked, meaning you get buildings at level 4, you get ideas at level 5. High levels of administrative technology now grant development efficiency, which reduces the cost of developing provinces. Forced March is now unlocked at Administrative Tech 15. Constitutional Republics now appear at Administrative Tech 22. Increase the base mercenary pool size from 12 to 20. Double the time it takes to build ships, but buildings will greatly reduce it. There's a building chain that allows you to lower the build cost or build time of a ship by 75%. So you can actually build them faster than before, but you have to actually build ship buildings to do it. Allies in an independence war are no longer blocked from declaring war. Farmlands and drylands now count for giving nomads their home shock bonus. So farmlands and drylands count as steppe. It's important to know. It used to just be steppe territory. That was it. Now it's also farmlands and drylands. However, my experience playing the game has been that it doesn't really tell you in advance if you will have the bonus. So you need to memorize this. Steppe, farmlands, drylands. Basically things that say lands. Of course, there's probably other ones. Yeah, they probably all say lands. I don't know. But farmlands, drylands, and steppe. Got it. You can no longer abort movement to the next province once an army has moved more than halfway. This actually is very, very easy to get used to, and it makes it so that combat happens very frequently, and you just don't get caught playing chicken anymore, which is really nice. You now have military access to any country that is granting military access to your war allies. So that's useful. So if you have, let's say you're England, and you are fighting against Austria, you're allied with Castile but rivaled with France. But for some reason France hasn't rivaled Castile. You know, maybe they're still fighting you and Burgundy and Austria. But France isn't involved in the war. So they grant military access to Castile, but it used to be that they would never let you have it. Well, now because Castile has military access, you'll have military access as well. Assaulting now requires a breach. Assaults on forts now only employ 5 times the amount of infantry and that the fortress can hold at the same time. Artillery modifier in Siege now impacts chance of breach, making it more likely, but each breach only gives +1 up until it's +3 in total. The tooltip still says that a breach will give +3, so the tooltip needs to be updated. The tooltip does not tell you whatsoever what the effect of artillery is on having the chances of a breach. It used to be that you get a breach from a natural 14 on the 1 to 14 die. I have no idea, absolutely zero clue what the effect of artillery is, because there's no information in the game. Forts now block advance into territory that they protect. You can only enter territory adjacent to what you already control. Occupation impact on war exhaustion is no longer scaled to the amount of provinces lost, but to the amount of total development lost. Provinces without fortifications give much less war score when occupied. You must now have 3 times the garrison size to siege. Garrison sizes are still roughly the same as they used to be, so if you have 2 fort level, you have 2,000 garrison, but that means you need 6,000 troops to siege it. Non-military constructions are now stalled at province occupation instead of destroyed. You now get 50% more aggressive expansion when taking provinces from countries that are not co-belligerent in war. That's actually a big deterrent to doing it that way. When besieging a fort, a natural roll of 1 will now result in a disease outbreak, which reduces the attacking army by 5% of its maximum strength. So you lose 50 men per regiment. It's pretty good. Declaring a country who is in a coalition against you co-belligerent will now call the entire coalition. Attacking a member state in a coalition against you when the emperor is in the same coalition will now have the emperor join as a coalition member, but still able to call allies. It is no longer possible to declare war while you are bankrupt. War leader can no longer be vassalized by enemies in a war unless they're on the other sides, unless they're the other side's war leader. AI is now better. No. More reluctant to accept vassalization if they are a member of the HRE, more reluctant to accept vassalization if they have a higher government rank, or willing to accept vassalization by higher ranked governments, and less willing to accept vassalization by lower ranked ones. Now more aggressive against revolutionary target if they are adversely affected by its existence. No longer willing to join wars that have been going on for 30 months. Big, huge, massive change, and there's nothing in the game that tells you why they won't join. It's just the option to call them to the war is gone. So this frustrated me for a while until I noticed it in the notes. Be aware, if you declare a war, you need to check to see when it started to make sure that you don't miss your opportunity to call in allies. So you can still ally someone after you've been at war and then call them in, but you have to do it within 30 months of the start date of the war. They will now always refuse to ally a country that recently dishonored alliance with it. The Pope will no longer accept diplomatic vassalization, added proper AI acceptance logic for asking to be a march. So your vassals will sometimes ask you to be made into a march. If you decline them, there is no penalty. AI will now designate and revoke marches. AI will now be willing to give military access to a country if it gave that country's enemies access in the same war. This fixes the use access to trap AI exploit. Fixed a bug where the AI would not build ships unless its capital was connected to a sea. More reluctant to burn legitimacy on fighting off foreign heirs that aren't significantly worse than their own alternative in elective monarchies. That's good, cool. AI hordes that are now more likely to pick administrative, innovative, or economic ideas when picking randomly. This allows them to reform their government, by the way. They need one of these 3. The AI should now be more wary about having their armies lured into traps. They should now be more reluctant to lift sieges when there is significant progress. Now more likely to end a war when affected by call to peace. They will now raise maintenance before going off to fight their overlords' rivals. Fix an issue that was preventing the AI from bringing home exiled splinter armies. AI will no longer use forced march on armies that are not located in a war zone. Fix an issue where the AI splinter armies would suicide into a much larger enemy stack. Good, so hopefully we'll stop seeing the little 6 stacks of armies just suicide into a 50 stack that there was absolutely no chance they could win. The interface, alerts, replace troops in foreign territory alert with an alert for exiled units. Added an alert for when you can pass a religious reform. Added buttons for mothball, activate all forts, along with status label showing a number of activated total in the country military view. Corrected and added a bunch of missing hints. Added a column for total development on the first page of the ledger. Added the macro builder interface for development. Updated the macro builder interface for the new building system. Fort level map mode now colors forts with green for friendly, red for enemy, blue for neutral. You can now see your subjects' unrest in the unrest map mode. Awesome! Added province adjectives, because you can actually park your own troops in your subjects' territory to lower unrest. Papal elections are now more authentic. Okay. Income and province view is now displayed on a monthly rather than yearly basis. Renamed nationalism to separatism to better fit new separatist rebels. Added sounds for raising and lowering autonomy, developing provinces, and the election of a new pope, the election of a new emperor, and for increasing your government rank. Added sounds for converter religions. Separate icon and tooltip for marches and subject view added. Disaster heading tooltip added. Fort map mode now have better tooltips. Aggressive expansion tooltip now displays what countries might join a coalition and what alliances will be lost instead of impact on all countries. Cool. Script. Now this is the one where a lot of these changes are very, very small. I'm not sure if we're going to read every single one of them, but there are a couple of them in here that are kind of important, so I don't want to miss too much of it. But scripting is like event related, right? So it's tough. Increase the cost of native buildings. Okay, the achievement should now be more accurate in describing their actual requirements. The princesses in this castle achievement now requires you to get a female heir while having a castle in your capital. Yeah, we're not going to read all of these. Lots of countries have new ideas. These are the ones. Mayan, Kish, Somali, Sadia, Manipur, Pagu, Kutai, Sulawesi. These ones, can't pronounce them all. Now here's some really significant changes to setup. 100 Years' War is no longer raging in 1444 as the countries had a 5-year truce at the time. Albania and the Ottomans no longer start at war to give Albania a chance to survive as they did historically for 20 years. Basically, there are no ongoing wars at the start of the game, so things can be much different. Burgundy has been changed. They're no longer a coherent state, but instead have several different subjects. They are personal union members, not vassals. France is now more integrated at the start, no longer has a number of vassals. They're just basically on their own. There's one big country. Removed a large number of prescripted buildings from the history files. England now starts with English monarchy. So if you want to try out that new government type, you need to play as England. Otherwise you'll have to wait till like Administrative Tech 22 to unlock the constitutional government type. Yep, there's a bunch of tags and stuff. Tags, cultures, tags. Bunch of provinces. Sped up loading of the game. It's now done on a separate thread. You won't be able to start playing until it's done, so that's good. Miscellaneous optimizations. The game should now run faster. My experience has been that it doesn't run slower. I wouldn't say that it runs faster, but I've always been kind of a negative Nancy when it comes to that. When you add stuff to the game, usually doesn't make it run faster. The fact that it doesn't run slower is good enough for me. Ships patrolling trade nodes that end up outside trade or supply range will now abort their mission. Rebels will no longer randomly teleport to Halsingland. Okay. Fixed a bug where a nation would display wrong values in the something. Truce lengths when release dates when passing Maya and Nahuatl reforms are now correctly set to 5 years. Yeah, this is just minor stuff. There's a whole section in here as well about bugs. Stopped exploit, selling ships while at war. Cool. So you can't do that anymore. Drunk Explorer can no longer trigger if you've already had the modifier. Good. That damn Drunk Explorer. A bunch of drunks. Ottomans will no longer start with cores on the Wallachian provinces if it starts after 1453. I remember seeing somewhere in here like Castile doesn't start with cores on Granada. I mean, you can read through these minor ones yourself if you'd like. But I saw one as well near the bottom that was kind of cool. What was it? I don't remember, but it was... Okay, so a couple of exploits have been removed. Like, you can no longer send a diplomat to start and stop sending the diplomat to increase relations with the country. What'll happen is, if you've never improved relations with a country before, then you get the instant bonus from sending the diplomat, and then you go to monthly ticks. If you have any improved relations with them at all, you no longer get the on arrival bonus. You only get the monthly tick. So you still get a tiny bonus to start, but there's no sense in sending and retracting the diplomat. Another big exploit that was kind of fixed was the moving through a province with an army and then stopping in the province manually to avoid on-arrival siege attrition. What happens now is if you ever stop in a province, you suffer the effect. So you can still march through lands without suffering attrition. You can still march through an enemy's area, arrive in a battle, and then go back home and never suffer siege attrition. But if you stop in a province, you instantly suffer the attrition, even if you're only stopped for 1 second. So just be careful about that. My personal solution to that problem would have been to just remove on-arrival siege attrition, but that's just my opinion, and I'm not a game designer, so we'll just have to deal with the fact that there is on-arrival attrition. People die from marching from one province to another for some reason. It's very, very hostile. I don't know. So yeah, that is the patch. Again, the full patch notes are longer. I consolidated it down just a little bit, got rid of some of the stuff about user modding. There's been a bunch of changes there. Overall, the game just looks better pretty much in every single way. Looks like a very good patch. Can't wait to play it more. I want to play the actual full release version though, because I've been playing the review code, which is a little tiny bit different. So, all right, well that is the patch. Do check it out. Again, I think it's going to be about $15 live tomorrow on June 9th. And let me know what your thoughts are. If you're excited about the patch, and tell me. If you think that some of the changes are not good, then you can tell me that too. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.